Good morning, Warriors. Welcome to Morning Adrenaline. Today is Wednesday, January 21st, 2026. It is time to wake up the warrior. So, yesterday we talked about your personal brand, not what you wear, not what you post, not what you say about yourself. We talked about how people experience you based on four main observations. We talked about the uncomfortable truth. You think you're being judged on your words, but the truth is most people already decided who you are before you ever opened your mouth. So today's conversation exists because that realization should bother you to a point you want and need more answers. So let me give you a visual before we get rolling today. Imagine two people walking into the same environment, same age, same resume, same experience. One walks in calm, grounded, and present. He doesn't rush. He doesn't perform. He doesn't feel the need to fill silence. The other walks in wired, talking fast, explaining, over explaining everything, trying to prove that he belongs in the room. Now, no one says it out loud, but everyone feels the difference. One feels safe, the other feels unmanaged or unhinged. Now, watch this. Neither of those men chose how they were perceived in that moment, but they did reveal it. And if that feels abstract, let's make it more concrete. Picture this. You're sitting across the table from senior decision makers. This isn't a casual meeting. You're there because you've been asked to be there. You're pitching an idea, presenting a strategy, trying to earn trust, buy-in, or a green light for a project. Your reputation enters the room before the contract ever does. You're prepared. You know the numbers. You've done the work. So you sit down and you open your notebook and you begin. And within the first minute, something feels off. Everyone is very polite. They're nodding, but they're not leaning in. Their arms are crossed. Their body language is off. Their eyes are steady but distant. And they're listening, but there's absolutely no engagement. And you feel it big time. So you do what most people do. You explain more. You add detail. You try to prove that you belong at the table. Essentially, you panic. The meeting ends clean, professional, respectful. And as you walk out, one thought follows you. I said the right things. Why didn't it land? See, here's the part most people never understand. The room decided who you were before your second sentence. And almost no one is taught what actually drives that decision. See, yesterday we brushed against it in our discussion on personal brand, but today we're going to pull it out and dissect it because it deserves its own spotlight. So, what was it that the room experienced before you said a word? Well, yesterday we talked about perception, how people experience you, often before they understand you. But today we isolate the force behind that experience. So, today's topic is all about energy. Not motivation, not hype, and not personality. Energy is presence. Energy is signal, and energy is information. Because listen, before people evaluate your competence, before they trust your leadership, before they decide whether to follow you, they experience your energy. So here's the question of the day that you must answer. If people followed your energy instead of your words, where would it lead them? See, energy doesn't just influence first impressions. It shapes trust. It sets the pace. It determines whether people lean in or brace themselves from you. And most people never take responsibility for it. They think they're being judged on what they say when they're actually being read on how they show up. So let's dive in and break that down. And here's a great starting point. Energy is always communicating, whether you intend it or not. See, you don't get to turn your energy off. Well, you kind of do if you have no energy. But if you have no energy, that's still energy. It's energy people are reading. So you don't get to turn it off, but I'm going to show you in a minute what you do get to do if you choose to. See, even when you say nothing, you're communicating plenty. That boardroom felt something before you spoke. People aren't guessing, they're reading. That's why personal brand never clocks out. It's always there. Wherever you go, you're there. So we can't talk about energy without discussing intensity. Not in my world anyway. Because when I coach my kids, as an example, or my kids' teams, or the teams that I coach, because it's not always my kids, man, I'm intense. I run the sideline when they're driving down the field to score a goal. I run onto the field to give them high fives. Sometimes I even throw out a hug. My coach voice carries across multiple fields. Why? Because sports are intense. And leadership in sports means matching the arena, matching the venue. See, if I want them to give me maximum effort and intensity, I have to lead in that mission first, or I can't expect them to deliver what I myself am not willing. See, that's intensity. It isn't emotional. It's deliberate. Now, there's a name for this, and it's called intentional signal control, sending the signal appropriate for the moment. Now, remember this word because it's the core of what we're about to dive much deeper into right now. But here's where intense people like myself can make a huge mistake. You carry that same level of intensity in and out of every other room and relationship that you enter. You don't know how to turn it off. There is no control button. And ultimately, intensity is your entire identity. See, intensity executed in the wrong environment is no longer leadership. It's noise, and it becomes annoying. So this is where most people get themselves in trouble. They take that one gear they're comfortable in and run it everywhere. Same volume, same pace, same presence. They don't read rooms. They impose themselves on them. And without realizing it, they erode trust instead of building it. See, ultimately, noise is mistaken for power. High energy and being energized are not the same thing. And confusing the two of them together is costly. High energy is just simply output, where being energized is controlled output. High energy is very loud. Being energized is very grounded. High energy can impress briefly, but it can't sustain. It burns out, it leaks, it overwhelms. Being energized is different. It doesn't rush to be seen. It doesn't need to prove itself. Controlled energy doesn't seek to impress, but it does command attention. So where that energy shows up and how determines whether it helps you or whether it hurts you. This is why you need to understand intentional signal control. Let me give you an example. Here's how I show up at the gym. If you go to the gym and see me, you will see me pacing like a caged animal between sets. I'm intense. I'm focused. I'm locked in. And I look right past and right through people. It's not because I don't see them, because I do. And I can tell you, and I can tell when people are looking at me, when they want to try to stop me to chit chat, when they're waiting for that opening, but I don't engage. And it's not out of arrogance, but it's out of purpose. I'm there for a reason, and it's not that. If someone does actually stop me, I'll give them 10 or 15 seconds. I'll be present, I'll be respectful, but I don't project availability. I'm there to work. Look, that doesn't change even if it's the hottest girl in the gym. Not because I don't notice, but because I'm there with intention. If I want to meet beautiful women, I'll go to the club. The gym for me isn't social hour and it's not happy hour, it's power hour. And that signal that I send says something to people about me. Now, don't miss this. I cannot take that same caged animal intensity straight into a business meeting when I'm done at the gym. If I do, it doesn't read as driven. It reads as uncontrolled. So before I ever walk into a boardroom, that intensity needs compressing. I don't lose energy, but I must change its form. I stay energized, alert, present, grounded, but the aggression from the gym stays behind. We're not talking about suppression. We're just simply talking about discipline here, guys. It's the intentional signal control. Now, let's draw the comparison. In that same gym, there's another guy. Between sets, he's sitting on his phone, scrolling, texting, distracted by whatever distraction he can find around him. It's the same building, but he's putting off a much different signal. Now, fast forward. Let's say a potential client sees both of us in the gym. Later, that same client interviews both of us in his office for a project. Now, in the office, we both show up with the right energy for the room. Calm, professional, prepared. On the surface, we look equal. But the client remembers what he witnessed at the gym. He remembers my focus and intensity, and he remembers the other guy's distraction and lack of intensity. So when it's time to choose who gets the project, who do you think feels like the safer bet for this guy? See, no one says it out loud, but the decision is already made. Now, what if I had shown up with my caged animal gym intensity? Who gets the project now? The answer is probably neither of us. So now you have to understand that none of this signal control can even exist if no energy exists. So if you don't feel energetic, you best find access quickly. See, everything we've talked about so far, compression, transition, restraint, signal control, assumes something most people don't actually have: the capacity to create positive energy. You can't change gears if you don't have an engine. Energy doesn't appear on command, it's built. And it's built long before the meeting, long before hitting the gym, and long before anyone is actually watching you. Energy is built through sleep, training, discipline, stillness, protected inputs, and of course, the foods you eat, which we won't go into today, but you can be sure I'll be discussing that pretty soon. Structure creates surplus, and surplus allows control. This is why most people can't regulate themselves. They're not choosing intensity. They're reacting to a natural habit. And you can't regulate traits and habits that you do not possess. So this is where energy stops being a skill and starts revealing who you are. You can build energy. You can protect it. You can even learn to regulate it. But under pressure, something else takes over. If you know me, you know what I'm about to say. Your identity. Your default energy reveals who you are. Because when pressure hits, you don't rise to what's ideal. You fall to your trained identity. That's why two people with the same preparation show up very differently when it counts. One stays grounded, the other spirals. And it's not because of talent, and it's not because of intelligence, at least not in and of themselves, because who they believe they are underneath it all is that's why all this takes work. It's all about who they believe they are underneath it all. And when I talk about this taking work, I'm talking about real work, like mental transition work, which is the ability to change gears without losing your presence. We're talking about work on mental toughness, the ability to stay grounded when intensity rises. And a strong core grounded in identity that doesn't collapse under demand. Guys, energy control isn't a tactic, and it's not a performance trick. It's a skill. And don't miss this. Your default energy tells the truth about your discipline, your self-trust, and your internal structure, your framework. So this is where identity must be trained, not left unmonitored. This is also where most systems fail, by the way. Most systems that talk about identity, most gurus that talk about identity, still try to change behavior and add more action without first installing a power identity. Identity is not a word. It's not an action. It's a rewiring of a subconscious. And everybody misses this. See, that's why you can't get a power identity to stick and keep defaulting back to the old identity that keeps you stuck. And this is why my CISO Vita platform is world-class and like nothing else you've ever seen. We are not about motivation because it's temporary. Who cares about motivation? We're not here to inspire you, although we are here to coach and lead you through it. Inspiration has nothing to do with it. But we're an actual vehicle to get you from where you are to where you want to be, quickly and permanently. Our identity shifting shifts your mind at the subconscious level. And when identity shifts, your resistance drops, discipline becomes automatic, and your energy stabilizes. All that control we've been discussing becomes natural. You're no longer forcing yourself to act a certain way. You're expressing who you are, and your identity, strong or weak, always prevails in that expression. So it's imperative you work to make it strong. And let me be clear. We're talking about permanent transformation. The new, energized power you. Your energy under pressure only changes when your identity does. And here's why this matters. If energy were just a tactic, you could fake it. But you can't fake identity when the stakes, the real world stakes, are real. What shows up under pressure is who you really are. And that version of you, everyone experiences. So listen, there's no neutral one-size-fits-all energy. You're always sending an energy signal or lack thereof. And as you now know, hopefully a different one when you're in the gym, in a meeting, in the quiet moments with your friends and family. The only question is whether that signal is accidental or intentional and controlled. Energy is not about being intense all the time. It's something I had to teach myself. It's something I still struggle with from time to time. There are times I bring a little too much intensity. Sometimes I go from the gym to this podcast and I have to calm it down just a little bit more control. But it's about being in control of the output in every situation. That's how discipline becomes visible. That's how trust is earned with your peers. And that's how identity shows up in the real world. So here's the question to carry with you today. If someone decided who you are based on your energy, would it match the person you say you're becoming? Work your body, feed your mind, build your soul, wake up the warrior. See you tomorrow.
Stuck in your mind, fighting shadows of a story you left behind.